Congratulations on this. It is such a fantastic watch. I got introduced to the Stanford Prison Experiment a while back, and it really blew my mind. And watching this completely changes my understanding of it. Why did you decide to dig into this topic?
Yeah, I think like you and many other people, I was just kind of blown away and shocked
Mhm.
by this story. It was these kids locked in a basement, and half of them have to play prisoners, half of them have to play guards, and the guards turn into these evil abusers and captors, and it was a shocking story that supposedly told us a lot about ourselves, that told us a lot about human nature and good versus evil. And I was kind of just intrigued and started researching it kind of in spare time. But quickly realized that very few of the people who had participated in this thing had ever really spoken in detail about what they experienced. It was always the professor who had created it, Dr. Zimbardo, kind of owned the narrative. So I decided that I wanted to hear from them. And so I started calling them and quickly realized that their stories and their experiences really put to question everything that we
Mhm.
thought we knew about this thing. And as one of the guards said to me, you think you know, but you have no idea. And that was very much the case in this project and kind of just sent me off to the races from there.
Wow. Getting to talk to them, was your was the purpose of creating this changed at any point? Did you go into it thinking that you were gonna get the story that you ended up getting?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the beginning, I was very compelled by the fact that these people said that, the story was a lie or that the
Mhm.
story was a fraud. Some of them were really kind of coming out and saying like, being very critical of this narrative and of Dr. Zimbardo. So I was compelled. I was like, oh, this is a classic, one person says one thing and the other says another. You have these two opposing sides who is going to be right? What is true? But
Mhm.
as I kept kind of going through this process, I realized that everybody has a different take. Everybody has a different perspective on this. And it's really kind of up to the audience to decide what is true and what isn't. I just wanted to give them all of the information, give them all kind of like the reveals and the new details and the clues that hadn't been talked about before, and allow everybody else to kind of decide for themselves if this was something that we should be taking seriously or not at all. But
Mhm.
so it became more of an exploration as opposed to just a simple debunking. And maybe just to add to that, I also think, in the end, I very much see this as an exploration of how a very good storyteller can wield a lot of
Mhm.
power. And by that, I mean, Dr. Zimbardo did a great job of spreading this story to the world. And, few people have really kind of taken it apart and dug into it and criticized it. There are a few. We have many researchers who have looked into this, some of whom are in the piece, but it's worth kind of questioning sometimes these people who come out with these grand narratives that we all suddenly become attached to.
Definitely. And one of the most interesting parts of this documentary is the fact that you get the actual subject to help recreate what they were going through. While doing that, what kind of what were you expecting to gain from that? And how did that change the narrative of this project?
Yeah, that was a really fun exercise that was kind of a risk. I didn't know what was going to happen by bringing all of these people back together in kind of a setting. We built a replica of
Mhm.
the experiment's hallway and let these participants come back and kind of relive it in a way. I didn't know what was going to happen. I really was hoping that it was going to be interesting at least.
Mhm.
But I was surprised to just see how quickly, it really kind of helped jog these guys' memories and really
Mhm.
put them back into the physical moment. And suddenly they were having these conversations that were just so interesting, and they could hash it out with the people that they lived through it with, as opposed to just thinking about it on their own. And, you know, they were angry, and some of them apologized to each other, and there were all these emotions, and it was just it was a really kind of thrilling experience to get to watch them find closure in a way and really explore this thing in a kind of more meaningful way.
Definitely. And having gone through this, or the process of making this, how has this changed your perspective on the experiment and your perspective of what the experiment says about human nature?
Yeah, I very much think that this experiment shouldn't really be thought of as a real scientific experiment. I think it's clear that there was so much manipulation. There were so many kind of the researchers really were tipping the scales in a way, and I really don't think you can call it a real scientific experiment. That being said, I think that some of the lessons that we're supposed to learn from this study aren't necessarily false. I do think that power can corrupt. We see that all the time. We see it in real life events constantly. But can we use this study as an example of that or to prove that to be true about all of us? No, I really don't think we can. And if anything, the study should be viewed as, um, you know, a really interesting improv demonstration that, if anything, shows you that a lot of people can experience the same thing and have a really different take on what happened in the same moment.
Definitely. Well, congratulations on this. It's a very captivating watch, and thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Thanks so much.